Now, Guinea has banned all international fishing activities in its waters days after the Overseas Development Institute in the United Kingdom report indicating West African states plagued by illegal fishing could create more jobs and generate billions of dollars to boost its economy. Now, the West African coastal waters include some of the world's most abundant fishing grounds, and the Institute says overfishing has reached catastrophic levels, with major fish stocks in decline, and some species are nearing extinction.
In 2013, 35 fishing vessels traveled to the West African territorial waters in Senegal and in Ivory Coast, which had already banned illegal fishing off their coasts. We were joined on phone by Mr. Alfonso Danias from the Overseas Development Institute in the UK. This seems to be very serious.
It's extremely serious. I mean, the data out there, the data that is known is that in sections, say, from Senegal to Nigeria and that coastline, overfishing is already affecting 50% of the fisheries in the area, and illegal fishing is responsible for a third to half of that overfishing. So it's a serious situation. It's getting worse, and there's nothing at the moment that indicates that this will change.
Are African governments ready to fight this scourge?
Essentially, the governments, unfortunately, have very few means. That's one of the things that we highlight in the report, the lack of means by most of the governments in Western Africa to monitor and patrol their waters. We pinpoint, for example, the case of Sierra Leone, which has, in 2013, had only essentially two patrol boats for the whole coast. And it's an issue of resources. It's an issue that many of these agreements that are signed with foreign fleets are signed pretty much in secret and are not made public. So it's also an issue of lack of transparency in the system. That's the case, for example, in the Chinese or South Korean or Russian fleets, not so much the case of the European Union. So governments generally are sitting back and not really taking this crisis seriously. You have the Port State Measures Agreement that's from the United Nations. This agreement would impose better controls at port, and it was finally ratified earlier in June. But very few countries in Western Africa, I believe it's 3 or 4 alone, have actually signed this agreement. There's no unified list of fishing vessels that have been accused of illegal fishing, and that's a very simple thing to do. So it's very little possible coordination between countries in the region.
Why is this practice very frequent only in West Africa?
It's rife everywhere. It's rife in South America, it's rife in the Pacific, it's rife in some parts of Europe. In Asia, it's a kind of global crisis that's happening. The issue of Western Africa is that many of these countries are particularly poor, but have particularly lack of resources to patrol the waters, and the extent of the damage already is huge. As I was mentioning, half of the fishing resources in many